Well, hi. Well, welcome back. Welcome to Mr. Scumbag's neighborhood. No, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Welcome on back to TK's Garage. And in today's video, Lee Zeldin, the other day, did a long, drawn out interview with CBS. It's like a show that they do that they normally stream. It's not normally on TV. But did this interview with one of their reporters, and they got into everything from cutting staff at the EPA to cutting the regulations dealing with mobile emissions. And everybody's caught up on the fact that they're saying, "Oh, it's only greenhouse gas, it doesn't have anything to do with actual smog, and it doesn't have anything to do with you know." The stuff that's important, like NOx and blah, blah, blah. Well, you guys are certifiably fucking stupid. Because, as we posted in the video earlier today, we put the documents up there for you to read. And those documents clearly show you that, no, all of that shit is going away. But I don't like people just getting it from my mouth. I'd rather you hear it directly from the EPA administrator directly. And I know we've done this before, but yeah, I'm gonna publish this for you here. Now we're gonna drop this video in here of him doing his interview from that section to the end with CBS, and then we're gonna come back and discuss.
So at the beginning of January, when we came in, the number for the agency total, that, by the way, this isn't just scientists, this is all agency employees of all different types of occupations. The agency was just over 16,000. We are going through reorganizations of all of our program offices. We are going to end up, we're predicting around 12,500. When I first came in, people were asking me, what is the right number? What is the right sized number of the agency? And as I was explaining then, it was too early to be able to tell them exactly what that number is. But what was clear when I told everybody was that we don't want to have one less or one more than what we need to be able to do our job, to fulfill all of our statutory obligations, to be able to fulfill our core mission and power the great American comeback. And what we then did was go into a reorganization involving political and career appointees providing ideas on ways to make each of the offices operate better as we look to the future. But as far as terminations go, the number is in the hundreds. We have also offered fork in the road where people would leave the agency, but they would continue to get paid until September, and then it became November for the later rounds, voluntary early retirement, as we work to right-size the agency, but ensuring that every decision that we make as part of this reorganization ensures that we fulfill all of our statutory obligations. That's very important. And by the way, what we also found when we came in was that a bunch of our different statutory obligations were being neglected in order to focus on other tasks that were not statutory obligations. So our pesticide review backlog was 14,000, new chemical backlog 500, state implementation plan backlog, small refinery exemption backlog, and the list goes on. So fortunately now, for example, the pesticide review backlog is under 10,000. Over the course of all of these different categories that we provided you, like for example, the state implementation plans, where we are working with states trying to advance cooperative federalism and get these state implementation plans approved. We are trying to reduce these backlogs because that gets to the core statutory obligations where Congress said that they want us to fulfill particular tasks that we weren't getting done.
Speaking of statutory language, which you've just indicated to my audience you're very sensitive to, you announced recently the shuttering of your research division, known as the Office of Research and Development. The Senate Appropriations Committee, which includes, among other members, Senator Shelley Moore Capito of West Virginia, who championed your nomination, and the committee itself voted 26-2 on a spending bill for you to stop this, saying, quote, it was appalled by closing the office and that doing so would further the loss of expert scientists. Are you going to comply with that statutory suggestion?
Well, a couple things. First off, the vote wasn't specifically, on just the line that you just shared. It was an appropriations bill.
It's a big bill,
with
I
regards
agree,
to
but it's
multiple
part of it.
agencies and appropriations and. Yeah, no, I'm sure. I'm just saying there wasn't a vote just on this line and this language. So that's an important point in context. The other thing that I would add is this: as part of our reorganization, we have been advancing and ramping up the scientific work inside of all different kinds of offices. For example, when I just spoke to you about the pesticide review and the new chemicals review, we have been adding scientists into the chemicals office. I was just talking about advancing cooperative federalism. We're adding an office of state air partnerships inside the Office of Air and Radiation. We're creating a new office of applied sciences and environmental solutions, and a whole bunch of different program offices. I just referenced some, the Office of Water, the Office of Land and Emergency Management. We have a whole bunch of offices where ranks are filled up with amazing scientists, and that's all on top of the new ramp up, the new increase, as well as the additional office, the new Office of Applied Science and Environmental Solutions. So the scientific research work that we do at the agency is important, especially where Congress has required us through statute to fulfill scientific work. And it's something that we will continue to do going into the future. And any new scientific or research work where Congress passes a new law and puts a new requirement on the EPA, we will proudly do so.
Let's talk about endangerment finding. It was a big announcement this week to remove it. You've argued that you can grow the economy and protect the environment, but some of EPA's own regulatory analysis, which cites Energy Department data, suggests very strongly that that will increase the cost and demand for gasoline for American consumers by quite a bit. How do those two things add up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not going to go along, and the president won't, and most of the American public with the EV mandates that have come up. That's the assumption that's relied on when those statements are being made, is that we're just going to make Americans switch from gas-powered vehicles to electric vehicles. It's been met with a lot of resistance, even in states like California. We're not just seeing EV mandates at the state level, but it was also done during the last administration. With regards to the amount of regulations that followed the 2009 endangerment finding, which was a finding specifically related to mobile sources, but to follow, we ended up seeing trillions of dollars worth of regulations on mobile sources, on stationary sources, and then that led to the electric vehicle mandate and more. And that's the trajectory that we've been on, where regulations, in some respects, were seeking to strangulate out of existence entire sectors of our economy, and specifically our energy economy. And that is part of the mess that we inherited, that the American public spoke loudly and clearly about as they were talking about their own economic concerns for this country, their desire to be able to afford to heat their home, their desire to be able to both heat their home while also getting the prescription drugs they need and filling up their fridge with the groceries that they need. It's important that we are applying common sense, that we are cognizant of these economic demands, and that wherever possible, when we can protect the environment and grow the economy, that we will choose both.
And how do you toggle between, Mr. Administrator, those economic concerns you vocalized and statistics that existed long before the Biden administration took over the Environmental Protection Agency, showing that environmental regulations save lives and improve health outcomes? How do you balance those two? Because there's plenty of data that suggests with endangerment and other rollbacks, health outcomes may be jeopardized. Lives could be put at risk.
Yeah, so what ended up happening with the endangerment finding in 2009, while some like to very simply fast forward to 2025 and sum up the 2009 endangerment finding as simply as saying that they found that carbon dioxide endangers public health and welfare, that's not what the endangerment finding did. Back in 2009, while focusing on mobile sources, what they said was that carbon dioxide, when mixed with 5 other well-mixed gases, the greenhouse gases, that they contribute to global climate change. They didn't say cause, but they used to contribute. How much? I don't say, but it's just north of zero. We know that much. And then they say that global climate change endangers public health and welfare. Now, here's the problem. After 2009 and the endangerment finding, the Supreme Court weighed in cases like Loper Bright, West Virginia, Michigan, Loper Bright overturning the Chevron doctrine,
right.
These decisions ruling with the major policy doctrine, that agencies can't be getting creative with statute, in this case, Section 202 of the Clean Air Act, and coming up with all of these many different mental leaps that are not included in statute, and then use that to create trillions of dollars of regulation and to get rid of entire sectors of the economy and put an EV mandate. Here's my message. If Congress wants the EPA to be regulating the heck out of carbon dioxide, well, they could put it inside of law. But even the endangerment finding itself in 2009 never individually studied carbon dioxide as an endangerment to public health and welfare. They had to do all these other mental leaps because they didn't have the science and the data to be able to make a direct connection. The other thing that they did that was different, when I mentioned that they were trying to combat global climate change, that was the approach that they took. The EPA never did that, and Section 202 doesn't address it. What was happening was, in the past, was that they were looking at local and regional impacts of the air pollutants, which many were specified specifically in the statute. But they didn't, again, in 2009, have the data, the science, to be able to make that direct connection. And that's why they changed it up to try to go off of a global climate change angle, which has been in existence now for 16 years. But the Supreme Court has weighed in. Clean Air Act is very clearly worded as it relates to this point. And we are not going to be taking great liberty and being creative and trying to interpret the law however we want it to read, where there might be a vague language or ambiguity. We will take the plain language of the statute, and if Congress wants us to interpret the statute any way other than the reading of the statute, then they should amend the statute.
Before I let you go, the Energy Secretary Chris Wright wrote in The Economist recently that climate change is a byproduct of progress, not an existential crisis. Do you agree?
Well, I'm not familiar with that particular statement, although I've had plenty of conversations with the Energy Secretary about all of these different topics. And the Department of Energy is also, this week they announced, putting out to public comment a scientific research analysis on this topic where people can weigh in during the public comment period with their own opinion. As it relates to climate change, there were assumptions that were made in 2009 that actually proved to not be true come to 2025. There were some pessimistic views. There was a decision to make in 2009. Do we go with a pessimistic view for climate change? Do we go with a more optimistic view? And here's the good news. Some of the pessimistic views that were relied upon in the 2009 endangerment finding, fast forward to 2025, didn't actually pan out to be true. So what we can do now is have a conversation, hopefully an honest conversation, where we are relying on 2025 facts as opposed to 2009 assumptions, especially the assumptions that didn't play out to be true. And the last thing I'll say is this. There are some networks, there are some media outlets out there that took this week's announcement that I made, which is with regards to greenhouse gas emissions on mobile sources, and they can't help themselves but to put pictures of stationary sources, of power plants, and showing smoke coming out of a power plant. And I get why the false, inaccurate imagery is used to try to scare people. But I think it is incumbent upon all of us, wherever we fall on any of these major issues, is that we're honest with the American public. What we're talking about here are greenhouse gas emissions from mobile sources. That's the proposal that went out to the public for a 45-day public comment period. This is the first time that there is a public comment period since the endangerment finding was first finalized, and we're encouraging public participation.
And we encourage a continued conversation with you and this program. So we are here. We hope you'll be back to talk more about all of this. Lee Zeldin, EPA Administrator, I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Major.
And so, like I said, it's pretty clear. All right, this isn't. I don't want to say this isn't rocket science. All right, because it really isn't. It's not. This isn't a difficult thing, but it's a thing where, like, even when you get the information or the facts or the, like, you're being told the real deal, the nitty gritty, and not even just from a YouTuber, but from the freaking person that runs the agency, and then they still go, no, nothing's gonna change. No, sorry. I just don't see it. Well, TK, you must want dirty air and dirty water. No, you mean like this dirty air and dirty water? Oh, that's the roof. But look at that beautiful water over there. Anywho's, obviously, I don't want dirty air and dirty water. That's not what I want. But I also want common effing sense. And nothing has ever been proven. And I know you scientifically, yes it is, TK. Nah. Yeah, and scientifically, if I blow on your mom, supposedly, if I just go, and that's what I mean by that, by the way, your mom could get pregnant. But that's not science, though. All right, so miss me with that shit. All right, please, just like completely miss me with that shit. So all I can say is this: if you don't believe the news directly from the EPA administrator's mouth, nothing me as a YouTuber or any other YouTuber is going to tell you about these emission systems and smog going away or is ever going to matter. Go watch some of these retards in California that are pro-smog, that make money from these smog shops. Go watch theirs. Don't watch here, because this isn't for you. You obviously don't like good news. You like, we're all going to die. We're all going to catch diseases. That's the kind of stuff you want to watch. This ain't for you. But anyways, let me know what you think about what the EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin said in the comment section down below. Make sure to give the video a big thumbs up if you like what I do. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And as always, stay petty, my friends.